Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers just for nostalgia's sake. And what I wanted to do is kind of do a tour of the high-profile transport ship. Now this is something that was built in with the, make sure I can actually pronounce this correctly, the Pyrotech something. Let me look here. Ptototech. Should probably remember that from The Expanse, huh? Ptototech. So anyway, so this is the high-profile transport. To get one of these, it's going to have a Ptototech module in it. So you will have to fight. It's got escorts with it and all that. So this is a captured, repaired transport, high-profile transport. But what I wanted to really do is kind of highlight. I really liked the design of this ship. I thought the designers and builders of this ship were obviously very creative. Did a very good job with aesthetics. The performance of the vessel was, when I first captured one, it was like, okay, I'll turn this into, and make this into my my thing. And I quickly discovered, so side to side, forward, aft, it's got the big thrusters here, and then you've got the big Ptototech thruster in the back. I thought, wow, this is actually really neat. What I did discover is your entirety of up and down thrust, which is to say ventral and dorsal thrust, is right there. So you literally have two up-down thrusters, which are the small thrusters, which do very little. So as far as directional control, just going through space, they're not too bad. If you truly have to go up and down maneuvering, which is to say, ventral and dorsal maneuvering, it woefully lacking. So you can see there's an awful lot of thrust here. So this is your side thrust here, which is two on each side. So that's actually, similar, but it seems to maneuver fairly well forward, backwards, obviously with all of the different ones. And then you've actually got a big thruster here, which is your port and starboard thrust, as well as these two in the center. So side to side thrust is pretty good. Port and starboard thrust, pretty good. Forward, back, very good, all things considered, because you've got that Ptototech thruster in the back. But your up-down thrust, limited to literally two up, two down, is woefully lacking in my opinion. Not incredibly armed, so you've got some stuff here in the front. You've got a couple of the interior turrets on the top, and then one Gatling cannon there in the back. And then these, of course, are your heavy hitters in the back here. Nothing really per se on the bottom, except for these two. And then that's about it. Little interior turrets there, so not a whole lot of armaments given a high-profile transport. So thankfully the escorts, I believe the escorts actually had rails, so they probably did pretty well. So that is the original high-profile transport. So in several iterations I actually changed things up quite a bit. And maybe I should just go ahead and go inside and show you what it looks like on the inside. If you have not, I know there's an awful lot of videos out here that demonstrate what this thing looks like. So this is pointing aft. This is kind of moving forward. These are the two, well, four, I guess, cargo containers that these guys have natively. These are, of course, large cargo containers. I think I've got it set to 10 times right now, so that's why these are fairly large. So the A and the B, port and starboard, including all their original stuff. I didn't change anything. This is literally original. I turned off the AI blocks because they would maneuver around and everything, and then I did the repairs of all the damage that I happened to do on the way in. So internal aesthetics actually also very nicely done. Windows facing to the outside, even though there is some blocks on the outside of those protecting them, so you can't actually see out of them. I like the use of these kind of skybox kind of windows. I thought that was a great touch. So really overall very pleased with the design of this vessel. I think it was really very well done. You've got your little thing here so you can actually go forward and look out. Again, the use of these newer windows, which I thought really did well. All the different consoles here, and then interestingly enough, a stand-up helm. So strange, but unexpected, I guess, more than strange, but certainly an interesting thing. So all the various greebling and all that sort of thing that was put into this, I'm really very impressed. Okay, so I ultimately this was one of the first things to go, because in a protection scenario it makes sense that you have a bulkhead there, but you know, in the normal use practical application, I'm more of a, well, definitely a PvE player versus PvP. So this is kind of your main access, and I use that a bit loosely because it is in fact the only access other than the cargo hatch, which is amidships. So can't vouch for whether this one really worked, because this was ultimately captured, blueprinted, and then, you know, walked away from it. Other than the designing, and once I started really changing and everything, I kind of I'll say ignored the original design, and you'll see why as I kind of go into it. So I really like these kind of aft passages here. So this one happens to be you know, somewhat of a berthing space. I'm not sure I would like my berthing space to be quite this open to the universe, but again, the use of the windows here, very well done. Armory right here next to this. And then of course this one is a little bit different, so still an armory here, but with our little hydroponics thing here. Still another sleeping quarters for use as we again continue aft. So this is kind of a cargo bay. I can only like it to a cargo bay. You can get up into this one from above, which I think I might be confusing that with another one, but you can see some stuff up there. So this is the smaller doors, smaller gates that are of course doubled up. Normally in this corner here is where you would have the Ptototech crate, whatever happened to be, pallet, whatever they would happen to randomly put here for you. So your way of getting it in and out of the ship, presumably in this small cargo bay. All of these, of course, have stuff in them, which is actually kind of nice. So you can see, oh, the weapons crate, yeah. So all of these, of course, with something in them. So they definitely good for loot, and good for sake of just really again, overall pretty nice ship. Okay, walking aft here a bit more, or flying as the case may be. Your gravity generator, this is the, I believe, one gravity generator on this ship. And then walking back, interestingly enough, through a pretty extensive medical bay. So you've got all these, your medical stuff, your MRIs here, which I don't think serve any function at all. And then, of course, you've got your cryo chambers. So there's actually 8 cryo chambers here, which is kind of neat, very extensive. Surprisingly so for a ship this size. Of course, some more use of the windows here. Can't really see anything well because of the framing, which will show you from the outside perspective. Going on aft here, we have a little bit more storage, more windows, which I thought was pretty well placed. You have the standard gyros here on the outside, and then we're actually looking outboard, and you can see some of the main thrusters right here in front of engineering. So can't see a whole lot of the world out here, but you do get to see some of the design features, which actually are very pleasant. I like the more industrial-ish look of these two ships. There was the actual combatant ship. I'm not sure what I don't remember if they called it a battleship or a frigate or something like that, but you know, clearly a combatant type ship. So here's the AI blocks that you can see are red. They're turned off. At least this side is. So kind of an aft control bay here, if you will, or just scribbling the new tunnels, passages, and everything, which really I do like. Going down into the bowels of the ship, which you can do either from these two, or you can actually see outboard. This is in the actual pods out here, so you can see one of the Ptototech gyros, one on each side. Of course, the interior turret, in case you don't belong here, and then into engineering proper. So we have a reactor here, and then on aft of this is where we find the Ptototech thruster is just aft of this. Give me half a second, I apologize. Okay, hopefully that was just a blip to everyone. So engineering section here, and I apologize for that blip, hopefully for you guys. I had to get more coffee and address some things at the house here. So as we work our way forward again, so down here, of course, is a whole lot going on down here. Kind of see where everything is. Oh, darn. Sorry. Having trouble with my controls. Of course, understanding what is really down here, kind of nothing. Oh, I'm just having all kinds of trouble with controls here today. Really not a whole lot here. So kind of this lower section where you can presumably conduct some maintenance here in the lower part of the pod. A cargo container here, which was ammo for the lower weapons, which is really what all this is about. I presume this conveyor here is actually the base of those weapons. So presumably so you can come down and actually do some maintenance. You have a viewport where you can actually kind of see something on the outside here. Not a whole lot, but something at least. Problem with flying in a ship here. Alright, back to getting myself back to ground floor, trying to fly. There we go. Again, all the conveyor systems here. This is very likely, yep, upper ammo containers. Same thing on this side. And then, oh, am I not where I thought I was, apparently. Or actually probably went up too high. Very likely. Problem with flying with ladders. There we go. Main deck. Alright, so engineering section. So this is effectively what this particular vessel looks like. And certainly nothing wrong with it as is. Maybe an overkill in terms of the medical bay here. But what I probably, my two complaints about this vessel is maneuverability. The gyros are actually very adequate because you've got the 2 standard gyros and at least 2 of the Ptototech gyros. So back out the side here. And then, so maneuverability, your actual orbital control, very, very good. Up and down, woefully deficient, and the fact that you literally only have port and starboard entries here at the front. There are jump drives. They are not powered on currently. I don't think I touched those, but in the end. So little space up here that is really just kind of an upper housing for those guys. So presumably you could actually swap these out with like ion thrusters or something like that and add a bit of forward thrust if you wanted to. Overall, this outside greebling actually is really neat. This is being used as the antenna, which is this parabolic dish antenna, which is actually kind of neat. Plus another antenna stuck on the front here. So overall, a pretty neat vessel. I like the way they did it, given all the different greebling, and really just, I like the aesthetics of the ship. It looks very busy, very industrial on the outside, but still very practical. So here you see these windows on the outside, which unfortunately are somewhat lost in the framing. I do like the framing. This goes all the way around. You can see kind of how they put all this together. So I really do like the framing. I thought that was very creative. I like the fact that they incorporated these windows in really kind of all around. So even though you have this frame assembly out here in the front, which I don't know that it really serves any purpose other than, you know, it looks nice. Probably just mirroring forward and aft because the thrusters are in this particular assembly. So just making something forward and aft of those on both sides kind of works. Not sure what these are really intended to be or to simulate, but again, the aesthetics of this actually is really neat. Of course, mirrored from side to side, port to starboard. Go underneath so you can see this framing underneath, which is pretty much the same. So I really like the way overall the aesthetics of the vessel, really very nice. So one of the things that I did was, the first thing I thought was, okay, if it's truly a transport, why does it only have 2 cargo containers? So my thoughts at first was, okay, I definitely need more cargo containers. So what I really did was extend the front here. You can see there's the cargo container here, the bridge up forward, and then the entry. A little closer so you can see kind of what's going on. So what I did at first was extend forward, added another portion in, which was really just an addition to add in another cargo container. And of course, as I was working through this, was realizing, okay, this is a very narrow vessel that's going to be a lot of problems as I go. So my first iteration was to cut it in half, right down the center, and then add in. I ended up doing that twice. The proportion looked a little bit weird, only going 2 more blocks. So if we look here, you can see this bridge is 3 wide. So my first iteration was to add 2 blocks, which would then make this central body 5 blocks wide. And it worked, but the proportionality was a little bit visually wonky. So it just did not quite look right. So what I ended up doing was kind of deciding, okay, if this is really going to be this much longer, and you can see this is the original over here versus this is my V5, things changed an awful lot lengthwise. and we'll do a tour on the inside of this vessel as well. But what I ended up doing is actually expanding it twice. So first time was 5 wide, so the original 3, and then 1 more. And then that turned out to not quite be visually pleasing, mostly because of the way this outer stuff was designed. Just having 2 extra blocks did not make it easy to really put anything additional in. So it ended up being, in fact, 7 wide versus the original 3, so adding 2 blocks out of center, which then allowed me to add in some other stuff down the center. So this whole section here was effectively new. So originally we have this 1 single stripe down the middle, and in this case we have the original stripe and 4 more, which then let me more or less carry on with the same theme, the same original design, but still gave plenty of room to do a lot of extra stuff. So I had to, of course, come up with a lot of additional purpose, I suppose. So we have the original antenna here, plus an extra antenna now that we had room. Instead of 1 that we had over here originally, we now have 2 of these, the interior turrets. For maneuverability, I ended up putting more thrusters on, and we'll get into some of that later. Obviously, this is a much bigger vessel, a lot more mass. You can see how I somewhat chopped off the whole aft section, including this framing section, which you can still see here. Obviously added a bit to it, which did change the aesthetic a bit, and then how I did the windows in the new version, mostly to accommodate. So you can see how these windows are still here, still part of the framing, but I had these extra, really 3 blocks in the middle that I now had to consume with something. So they ended up with a slightly different windowing set. This whole section here again was kind of just taking bits and pieces, this section here, and really just expanding it. Again, I hope that my goal here was to keep the original aesthetics, the original design principles, and just carry them forward. So I think I did that. I think I did that okay. What I did do was add an awful lot of up and down thrust. So I added 2 more here, sorry, 3 more here, each top and bottom. And then as we go along here, you can see there are some additional, which is 12 more, 6 and 6 on the top and bottom. Now, the problem with these that I have noticed is that even though the model of the Gatling gun is only a 1x1, it is actually, the block itself is indeed a 3x3. So the fact that when these guys do ignite and you do some serious thrusting either direction, you will, if you have thruster damage turned on, you will damage these Gatling guns up to and including destroying them. So it's kind of one of those things to pay attention to just in case. So this was my additional armaments onto this guy. I believe the same thing is true. Yeah, the same thing is true down here with these guys. So integrated in with the 6 and 6 for the down thrust and up thrust, there are additional Gatlings down here. All right, back up to the top. All right, so armaments, you can see there's quite a bit of addition here. I kept the original armaments, which is to say, I think these are the, So we have the artillery turrets, and I can't remember what the small ones were called. I think those are on the front here. And assault cannons. So the artillery turrets and assault cannon turrets. So I kept that whole theme, other than adding more. So I tried not to go just total weapon spam, even though I did get pretty generous. So having been so many years of Navy, we tend to put weapons where there are mount points. So I tried not to go completely over the top, but yet put mount points where it seemed practical and reasonable. So obviously in this center section framing here, which is a bit less structurally sound, I don't want to say it is structurally unsound, but as far as the rest of the ship, if I were the gunner on the opposing vessel, that would be the section I would aim for. So the rest of it, definitely a little bit more meat on the bones here. So one of the additions to this particular vessel, the whole idea of a cargo bay, or in fact a shuttle bay, was to add, in fact, the additional access. I'll go ahead and call that access. So this does have a proper shuttle bay. Not huge by any means. The other thing I tried to do, now that I actually see that I did add some non-vanilla stuff, I tried to keep this as vanilla as possible. All of these thrusters are in fact DLC. So this is the Sci-Fi here, Sci-Fi large thruster, large ion thruster. But I tried to keep everything as vanilla as possible. In the case of this center door here, this is in fact called the center gate. It is a mod. And there was kind of no way around it. If I wanted the space here, I was going to have to do something. Let me go ahead and open these. You can see all the red lights here, which currently I think are off. So hangar open and hangar close. So this is a timer block based opening mechanism. So this bay is in fact pressurized. So this is actually the same controls for both sides. So either set of doors that open will cause the same mechanism to trigger. So the idea is there is a completely separate air vent system that will pull in all the air and store it. Once that is pulled in, the doors will actually open. The normal ventilation, of course, is secured at that point, which is to say that's the start of the process. We secure the normal ventilation so we're not just bleeding air into the universe. The doors open, lights change, all that sort of thing. So it is a completely controlled three-step process. So I'll go ahead and trigger that. At least I hope I triggered that. It does take a certain amount of time, of course, to evacuate all the air. And then hopefully these will happen. Maybe not. Try it again. Well, maybe not working. Very possibly not working. Oh well. One more thing to figure out. Not sure why that's not working, but not working, clearly. So the addition here of a lot of different things. So one of my arguments about the first one was that there was only the forward access, which is of course this here, which was kind of the original. There is what might be affectionately called an amidships. So this actually opens just forward of the hangar bay here. This is either just aft or part of the hangar bay. We'll find that out on the tour. if memory serves, I think that's just the aft portion. And then there's actually one more access point. It's a little hard to find, added some Ptototech stuff. But it's this here that goes right into engineering all the way aft. A couple reactors I added in here too. So definitely changed the amount of access you have. Now, if we consider things from a pure warfighting perspective, obviously an entry door or an access hatch is a weak point. So if somebody is trying to take over your vessel, then going through a door is always easier than going through some form of structural bulkhead. On the other side of that equation is when in time, if in combat, you have to abandon ship, running all the way from the aft section of your ship forward is not necessarily a positive thing. So having an access point where you can, in fact, abandon the ship if you have to, you know where that access point is. Always better to have one close than farther away. So you could make various arguments about what's better, what's worse, but so one of the things I did in the designing or redesigning of the vessel is actually do a lot more. So there was very little forward to aft conveying because there didn't need to be. So all of the aft conveying was in fact separate than the forward. I'm not sure. I think it was a forward connection that did all of the, this is where the medical stuff actually is, through here, through the center. And I think that was actually plumbed in for the sake of the cryo chambers, because obviously those have to have, oxygen and power. So made some changes. So, all right, let's go inside. Get to see what it is. Obviously, we're coming in here on the port side. So one of the things I did change was to make, now that I really had room, was to actually make proper airlocks. So even though this does not have a vent in it, it is a proper airlock. So the inside of the ship is pressurized, even though the airlock compartments themselves are not. So as you can see here, I actually have, between all the adding of blocks here, actually did a lot of mirroring. So this was this forward section. So now, because there is so much extra room, there was all the opportunities to add a few things in. So we have our two cargo containers here. I did add in a gyro to make, I put tanks in, mostly oxygen, I think, are the forward ones here. And the problem, of course, with tanks is that they are not airtight. I wanted all the spaces, you can see, high and warm here, so this is a pressurized space, climate controlled space. So I ended up using some of these external, what are they called, half window corners. In this case, it's because I'm covering where the gyro is, as well as the deck plates. So building those into the floor, they're kind of invisible because I use those same plates out here. So basically this whole floor is those plates in one way or another. This, of course, is the regular floor here, but you can see these plates where they are. An assembler here, very likely, I don't know that I did this, but very likely there are the expansion units here, the upgrade modules on each side of this guy, I would think. Probably underneath as well, because I think there is room in the framing of the vessel to actually be able to do that. The original vessel, of course, because it was not really intended to be anything more than, in my opinion, limited transport, Obviously, you can put an awful lot of cargo into those containers and the various cargo containers that are throughout the ship, but definitely not a, dare I say, long haul or extensive transporter. You would run out of space very, very quickly. So in my expansions, I really did change this to be, you could use this as a mobile base. So that was kind of not so much one of the intentions, but as I build onto ships, I like to have them multi-capable, which is to say you have some refining capability as well as some assembly capability, because even in combat, you never know. It's always nice, as the saying goes, it's nice to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So this is probably not the only assembler that exists. I tend to number everything, so just the fact that it says assembler 01, it does not necessarily mean anything. It could indeed be the only one. Now, I did also put gates all the way throughout the ship. You can see right now that most of them are open all the way back. So not exactly the most intelligent in terms of combat, but one of the features here that one of the things I did, and I stole this totally from how I play Empyrean Galactic Survival, is so timer block, all doors close. So there's a timer block that basically has all of the main doors throughout the ship, and I can actually trigger this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you can see all of these doors. You can't really see beyond the bridge here, but all of these main doors closed. What that really does is completely compartmentalize everything. So if you took damage amidships, then your other spaces may not depressurize. You may still be okay there. Of course, with the addition here, you have a lot of extra stuff. So I actually put programmable blocks. I really like these new ones. Look more like a proper data center. So those were a neat addition, I thought. The consoles, I tried to keep them very similar to the original. The main helm here in the middle, and then I kept the bridge as similar to the original as I could, including the extra greebling up top here. So hopefully this is gates. I'm gonna try that. May. All right. Okay. Yeah. You can see that did open all the way back. So the idea, of course, was to have a way to completely, close down everything, compartmentalize everything for safety and decompression purposes. And then, of course, the green one over here, which I apparently did not name correctly, so oops, OCD fail there, which opens everything back up. So helm, all the same here. All right, moving aft. So somewhat of, I hate to call this a wasted room, but unfortunately, because of the limitations here, because of putting the tanks in the floor, means that these spaces are actually occupied. It doesn't look like they're occupied because, but because of these being what they are, they're actually a corner window. You can't put anything else in that space. So unfortunately, that means that this space looks very open, which I guess is okay, but would have much rather have been able to do something in there. I really kind of like the animations of these Ptototech gyros. And the gyros are a bit stronger than the standard gyros, so that makes it also kind of nice. A few less gyros when you're building. So other than this being wider, I tried to keep this about where it was. You can see there's another generator up here, a gravity generator up here, and windows all the way out, but extra deck in between. And then out. So I had to put windows wherever I could put windows, even though structurally speaking, windows are not as strong as a normal structural bulkhead. So for what that's worth. But using some of the same greebling that they had in here originally, the entry and exits, other than the fact that now it is indeed a proper airlock, so an inner door and outer door, so you can enter and exit without just blowing all of your oxygen out into space. So this one also proper airlock to separate your main entry, even though this one is not. So this one's just a single door, at least I think that's a single door. Nope, it is a double door. Yeah, so I did proper airlocks through quite a bit of this, which is kind of interesting. Did I? Maybe not, because this is a full block. This is, so probably not. Yep, I think that's just a single door as I really look at it. So one block wide, single door, but looks like a single door. Probably the large gate there, because I think the large gate is 5 wide, because there's one behind the bulkhead here that you can't see. So 5 by 2. Alright, so this one is definitely a proper airlock, and the reason for this is, if you remember the original ship, was this kind of storage bay kind of thing. So I've kept that theme, or at least as much as I could, kept that theme. I did the bigger doors here, of course, as you can see, and added in some extra ventilation. So the idea was that all of the ventilation here was either going to be the same as the original, or I would add to it proportionally. So in this case, we have the ladder that goes up to, this was the compartment where the jump drives were. I suppose we might as well go up there and investigate what that is. We're here, we might as well. I probably just ought to use the ladder instead of... So I thought this would be a good, somewhat living compartment. So that's what we turned this into. So kind of a crew quarters, if you will. So their little kitchen here in the center. Unfortunately, in some cases, because of flooring being flooring and spaces being spaces, there's some, obviously, for those of you who have built in Space Engineers for a while know there are some limits that you just kind of have to push the out leave button and move on. So there was no way to add a floor in here. So this is kind of somewhat compartmented both sides, even though this is just a straight through passage. So bulkhead down the middle here, but kitchen on both sides. So this is kind of simulating, you know, the two different sides. So we have our shower and our commode back here, and then extra people compartments. All right, now that I know this hole is here, I'm just gonna go straight down. More living compartment. So you can see these are the actual lights. This is the back of the light. So a little bit of a control space on both sides here, and then living compartment. More of the, you know, galley kind of an area here rather than, you know, pure sleeping. So sleeping up top, which you could probably argue is not the most intelligent. That's the closest to the outside of the ship, which means the most vulnerable to combat damage, which may not be the best thing ever. All right, so back into the kind of cargo bay. And let me see if this one works. So if all my timers work, so this is bay open, bay close. Oh, maybe that's what I did. Maybe I pushed the close button rather than the open button. Don't know about that. Okay, so open. So we have our warning lights. Very likely, yeah, we'll see this went. So we can kind of see how this is losing, and now we have no atmosphere, and then the outer doors open, and eventually the warning beacons do indeed turn off. I don't remember whether my lights turned off or not, but so there is this one which I integrated into this 3-button console, which is always a fun thing, and then I think aft here I just incorporated a console. So bay close, bay open. So we'll punch the bay close, which should then do everything in reverse. So indeed the doors close. Warning, of course, comes on, and then we should, I hope, see the atmosphere. Yep, we went to low oxygen, cold instead of freezing, and hopefully we will go back to full. You can actually see, yep, high and warm. And then if everything was right, these inner doors will in fact open again, which looks like they did. So at least this one's working correctly. All right, so this one opens in, so that leaves you out of the new storage compartment to the kind of hangar bay. So, okay, I was wrong on the outside there. This is the airlock that goes out. Then we have our doors and aft airlocks. So we actually, this whole entire compartment not only has 4 airlocks, 2 port and 2 starboard, but forward and aft. So interesting, interesting. All right, so let's see if we can figure out what I did wrong here. Hangar open, hangar close. So let's push the open button and see. And I'm seeing absolutely nothing happening here. Okay, I normally would want to troubleshoot until I figured out what's wrong with this, but I'm not going to do that on screen here. Okay, so looking at this, you see this is the gates. So this is the vanilla gate. Unfortunately here, even though this shows, gate, this is the middle gate. Now, if I've found this, if you really have, a lot of larger spaces and you want to keep going in the kind of vanilla style format, that this middle gate actually is of considerable benefit to you. So even if you do not like mods normally, this is kind of one of those that goes along with the vanilla aesthetic very, very well. So it lets you do these 6 bay doors. So obviously the idea here is this is 3 wide. So in this case, I've got them turned sideways. So this is 3 top to bottom and 2 wide. So these are the exact same gates that you see throughout the ship going forward and aft, but they're turned sideways. So in this case, what I wanted was, here's an opening that is 3 wide, and in this case 6 long. Otherwise I would only be able to do 3 wide and 3 tall and 4 wide, but because of the addition of this center gate, middle gate, then I could go to 6. Now, having said that, having it 8 wide or 10 wide is also possible using 2 or 3 middle gates, or however long, you open up your entire side of your ship if you want to. So there's a lot of opportunities here by the use of this middle gate. Again, middle gate, which you can find on the workshop, on the Steam Workshop for space engineers. So I've found, I think this is one of the very few pieces that is not pure vanilla in this build, and I tried to keep the non-vanilla stuff to an absolute minimum. Now, as we're going through, you do see DLC. So this is the warfare batteries, for example. So all of the batteries throughout the vessel here are the warfare batteries. I'm not sure what the windows are. They may be also a DLC. We have the industrial cargo containers, so those are, I believe, also DLC, and these inset fan air vents may also be the DLC, but all stock Keen DLC. So Nothing here is non-vanilla, but there is potential, and I think these doors, but of course if these doors were stock, so the doors were part of the original build even though there were only two of them, which is to say the port and starboard forward airlocks, well, not airlocks, sorry, just hatches getting in and out. Okay, so I'm definitely going to have to come and fix these doors. It might be something simple like if I moved these guys around, something. Don't know. I'm going to control the OCD. All right, continuing aft. One of the things I did, and this is because if you've ever been on big ships, let me see if I can find the one up forward here. If you've ever been on big ships, so for those of you who have been in the Navy, one of the first things they do is train you on what's called a bullseye. Now the bullseye is a space designator placard that basically tells you where you are in the grand scheme of things, what deck you're on, what space you're in side to side, and all that sort of thing. What frame you're at, which is really the aft and forward component of that. So you need to know those three things to figure out where the heck you are in relation to the ship. In this case, I put these arrows down so you could see, okay, this is forward versus aft, because you can actually get turned around pretty easy on a ship. And so if your frame numbers are going up, then you realize that, oh, wow, okay, I'm going aft. Oops, maybe I didn't want to go aft. So all the ventilation systems in here, of course, are active. Which ones of those actually, I think it's these ones up here that actually control the evacuation of the air, but otherwise everything is the normal ventilation system. So this is kind of, if you can see it, continuing on into this was this framed section, so I have changed pretty dramatically the medical bay here, but I've tried to keep with the theme of, indeed, this is medical bay. I did like these contained cryo chambers. I just think they fit the industrial aesthetic of the ship much better than the original vanillas. So these, again, may be DLC, but are part of, you know, the Keen vanilla stuff. So again, not a mod, DLC possibly, and then of course all of our, you know, MRI and lab bench here, which are also part. This, if those folks have not seen this one yet, this is the new medical bay. The interesting thing about this particular new medical bay is kind of hard to see, but there is a conveyor back here. The attachment conveyor port here is actually on the side. It is not on the top and bottom like it was on the original medical bay. So even though this one looks a bit more industrial, a little bit more technologically advanced, it also has the conveyor port on the side. So that may or may not work into your builds. So I'm not sure why Keen did that, other than to say this is obviously a different shape. It is still a 2x2x1 block, but so you cannot just take out the old one, put in this one, and have it work, because the conveyor ports are in fact in a different place. Thankfully, other than your aesthetic, the conveyor port is in fact on the back of this, just like it was on the old cryo chambers. So that part you could directly swap out, although your aesthetic obviously is going to look a bit different. Easier to incorporate into a kind of a multi-deck design if you want to, much more so than the old ones were. The old ones looked a little bit wonky when you stack them on each other. And then making like catwalks and stuff around them was a bit more challenging. Whereas in this case, catwalks, it's a square box, so makes it a little bit easier. One of the things I did back here is actually make a full-blown medical bay. For those of you who have ever been to medical on a ship, obviously you have all the different amenities such as showers and commodes, that sort of thing. So I did put those in. And then there's 3 beds back here just in case you are stuck in the infirmary. If that's the case, sorry, I feel for you, but. All right, This is another one of those spaces which, because I incorporated stuff into the floor, made it kind of interesting for how I was going to do things. So one of the things you can see here is I've got the armored conveyors, or the reinforced conveyors. Let's see what they're called. Reinforced conveyor. So that does improve the integrity of those guys. Plus, you can build them into the floor to a certain degree. So as long as you have them spun around the correct way, as you can see, the high and warm here for my environmental display, you can see that those are still, we are still in a pressurized space. So again, we had some programmable blocks here, which you can see in the corners. So you may or may not use those. Obviously, if you use things like an inventory manager or something like that, you're going to need programming blocks. So one of the things I wanted to do was add enough programming blocks to make it practical, so somebody could take this particular blueprint and actually do something with it if they wanted to. So one of the things you see here is the Ptototech batteries. So in many places I've actually used the Ptototech batteries because they are a bit more robust than the vanilla batteries. Everywhere else, of course, I have the Warfare batteries. So again, that's a DLC item. So apologies if you don't otherwise have access to that. The Ptototech stuff I think is all vanilla. I don't think that's DLC, so you should be okay here with these. And I'm actually not sure about the programmable blocks being this kind of proper computer bay either. That I don't know if that's DLC or not. So I apologize if some of that is DLC. Hopefully that doesn't affect too many people here. All right, all the different blocks here. So this one is an event controller. For those of you who, I think event controllers were introduced in the Signals update. Signals actually was pretty neat, some of the different things that they incorporated. I know they have kind of overhauled that again with the new, I'm trying to remember what they just called that, but the brand new, well, almost brand new DLC that just came out. So that, I know some things have changed in what they are, but the event controllers, they're actually pretty extensive. Do you need 8? Oh, I guess I don't have 8, but there are 4 on this side. So the neat thing about the event controllers is you can trigger an awful lot of different events with a single controller. So the possibilities here are endless, but some of the things, like you sit down in a control seat and you want to trigger the ship to go over into battle mode. I'm just pulling that out of my butt there. So you can make the lights turn off and other lights turn on. You can make the ship depressurize. You can have it close all of the bulkhead doors throughout. You can have all the airlocks closed. You can set up events, right? Something happens, this whole series of things happen because of that event. So having a few event controllers I thought was a good idea to build into the ship, plus the fact that having, you know, this is kind of the data center, so having kind of data looking things I think was to the advantage. Let's see what this guy is. So timer block. Now timer blocks, for those of you who've been playing Space Engineers for a while, you remember that timer blocks used to be a pretty important thing in how they did things. And they can still be very important, but not as important anymore as they used to be. Programmable blocks, of course, are still just as useful. For every script you run, you need an independent, very typically, independent program block. So in this case, in just this space alone, we have 6. If you remember, there were 2 more on the bridge, or 4, maybe it was 4, might have been 4. So hopefully plenty of programming blocks for you to be able to really make this into a good home. a mobile base, if you will. And there's some other attachments which we'll get to here later on in the tour. Even though I've been babbling on here for an hour, but so this is going to be a little bit of a longer one. So again, automated programmable block from the, I think this was all from the signals, but automaton it says. So maybe, I don't know. Broadcast controller, so there's some interesting things, and I'm not going to go into all the details because I'm really not that good with signals, but all this stuff was from the signals, and you could use this to control, for example, the ship to control something on a base, and use particular channels, and somewhat like an event controller, and that you have this programmed in, and if you send this code to the base, the base will respond according to how you have it programmed. So for example, I come up on the base, I push a particular button which triggers certain things, which opens my outer cargo bay doors, and you can get very extensive with what you do. So multiple broadcast controllers here, because just like with the event controllers, it's really kind of, you program it to a single event, and then you can have a bunch of stuff happen based on that event. But more timers here. Batteries, as you can see, another fan ventilation system, and then again, just keeping with some of the aesthetics, although this says jump drive. So put some jump drives in here. So this is all the different combat controls. So your basic AI task, this is your flight, movement, more programmable controllers, 3 port and 3 starboard, it looks like. And then again, we have a defensive combat mechanism here, offensive combat mechanism, and then another basic task controller. So for those of you who are really good at programming what your ship can do, this can actually do an awful lot. These blocks are pretty neat. You could probably spend a few weeks just goofing off with these things and figuring out what they can do, what they can't do. So rather than patronizing you with my probably somewhat imbecilic interpretation, there's a lot of folks out there who have put a lot of energy into giving tutorials about what all these new AI blocks do. I call them new, but they're not new. They've been out there for months and months. So there's a lot of videos out there that really describe in detail, in some cases gory detail, on what these blocks do and how well they do it, and some of the pitfalls and that sort of thing. So I will leave that to those other content creators, because they're actually much more verbose and articulate about them than I am. On we go. So this is the original, or my version of the original engineering bay. So a lot of things have changed. So you can see these 2 interior turrets are still here. So instead of the one in the center, they just got moved to the outside, so you still have the same protections back here that you did. These doors, in fact, are the same ladders that go up and down. They just got moved out with everything else, and I put doors on them because I wanted to further isolate compartmentalization. So these now are entirely independent compartments from main engineering. So that's both sides. More greebling ladders and stuff like that. And these doors, in fact, are the doors that I pointed out at the very beginning that come out at the aft section of the pods. So you can actually, these are indeed genuine airlocks that go all the way to the outside of the ship. So you can evacuate the ship if there ever comes that time where you have to abandon ship. You can, in fact, get out of engineering right to the outside of the ship. So rather than having one reactor back here, you can see there are now 2. There are, in fact, now 2 of the Ptototech thrusters back there as well. So this was because we expanded 4 blocks. and these blocks are in fact 3 wide, then that gave us this extra amount of space that I could actually put in another Pyrotech thruster, as well as another, this is of course just the industrial reactor here. But all right, so that is forward to aft, the new ship. So obviously a whole lot more room. In this case, the design really is, other than some of the up and down spaces, it's just wider. So in my case, I really like having a centralized corridor that goes the entire length of the ship. The last thing I want to do for people who are not familiar with the build, you take anybody's blueprint and then you kind of have to figure out the map. You know, how do I get to this particular place? In this case, you have a single forward-aft corridor, main corridor that takes you all the way forward or all the way aft, with a few little spawn-off points. Now, I'm not going to go into these, mostly because I want to show you some of the other amenities that I have built along with this. So rather than consuming the time to take you on the total tour, if you're interested, you can go there. Obviously, we went up when we were a bit more forward, and this is literally just the extension, the very same thing of those ladders that took you up and down previously. Okay, so we're going to go out the starboard side just because, again, proper airlocks here. And then we are truly out, but so one of the things I had mentioned was taking a vessel in whatever shape it was in and adding some amenities. So this actually does have auxiliary reactors. So in this case, you can see this is a warfare reactor, but it's a small warfare reactor. It is plumbed in, so you can see the plumbing here, which goes to, in fact, all the different armaments and stuff like that out here. So there are armaments up here, which is where all this particular conveyor system started, but it does go out to connectors. So in the case of making everything practical, so you do have some connectors that you can utilize here to give you some flexibility. All right, so we'll go aft here. You can see where this has actually 2 of these thrusters, and then you can see some small thrusters in between. These are, I believe, the warfare thrusters. Yep, warfare ion thrusters. So the warfare versus the sci-fi, which I really do like the aesthetics of the sci-fi. But those warfare thrusters, even though they're just very industrial, very straightforward, they do absolutely have their place. So I think they work pretty well here. Although I could have, because there's so much more of them exposed, put the sci-fi thrusters in here, probably with the same effect. They might have actually looked better here, but for what that's worth. All right, so this is version 5 of the Kenti mod version. Now, one of the other things that I thought, okay, why doesn't a transport have a whole lot of space? So the idea here is to end up with usable, practical storage space. So there's actually 3 different versions of this. The small version here, which was the original, which has, as we can see here, a bunch of industrial storage tanks. So this is mostly hydrogen. There is an oxygen tank now. I have not played with it, but there is an oxygen tank that is similar to this one. All the industrial storage containers, and then more hydrogen in the back. So very practical storage. I tried to design this so it could go either on the port or starboard side. It would not matter. You could do it on either one. So this is, dare I say, bi-side type of an arrangement. So you could put these on either side of the ship without any consequence at all. So they are designed to go on either side. We have the large version, which is here, which is just longer. That's the only difference. So more storage. In fact, the same amount of hydrogen storage, but we have an extra block of industrial storage containers. This one was, my thought process here was going forward. I have, let me go ahead and go over here and point this out. we have these little extension areas here on the outside, which they're kind of impractical from the perspective of putting something out there because you have to build around it. On the other side, that is what the ship was designed with, which means I had to accommodate in some way. So if I wanted to come forward, both the small and large versions of the storage mechanisms, the storage pods, don't involve that. So it makes it kind of easy. But with this new section coming all the way forward, then I had to figure out what to do with that. So that became this section here. Now we have all the same storage. Basically, this takes a large and adds some things onto it. Did I lose one container? No, I didn't. So this is basically a large with a production assembly on the front. So this, if we look, I think these are the refineries. So one of the interesting things I discovered, the Ptototech refineries are indeed refineries. The Ptototech assemblers, on the other hand, are not really assemblers. They can only do Ptototech stuff. They may change that in the future. It may have already, but that's the challenge. So these are standard vanilla assemblers with, as you can see, upgrade modules. So these are probably speed modules because I always do that. So the idea here was we can put things like all of our ores and such in these forward containers and do everything we need to do with them through the refineries and then in fact store. So the idea here was this would be something like a colony, and we could do expansion to a base, anything. So flexible modules that would give us ample storage as well as the ability to do refining and assembly. So basically take the burden off of the ship and let you do some additional stuff. So large pods with production, small pod and large pod for storage. So you can see here is a version 5 ship that is effectively outfitted here with 2 large production pods, one on each side, port and starboard, and then just the version 5 ship here. So this dock here happens to be built specifically for this. It uses all of these additional connector ports, connectors built into the side of the ship. There's actually 4 along each side now, so we have this one forward here versus the original ship here. We still can use this one for reference that didn't actually have any connectors. So I thought that was weird. That was actually one of my very first things that I did, was to put a connector here and just take this cap off and put a connector there, because, you know, why wouldn't you have a connector on your ship somewhere? So in this case, this being the version 5, there's actually 4 connectors on each side. So this is the forward connector, the forward amidships, the aft amidships, and then all the way back here on the aft section there is another outboard. So that's the 4 on each side, and they're mirrored on the other side as well. So the idea was to be able to use all of those different connectors to in fact connect everything on. These are a little hard to see, but you can see these are connectors that are mirrored here. They are in fact green. So in this case, the small connects onto 2. I think they were hidden right there. Oh, here it is. Maybe it's right here. Yep, right here. You can kind of see that's also green. If I can get here, there's the green. And then this one also, which is up here forward, you can see that one also green. So in this case, I had the problem of what do I do with this particular space. Because of these guys that protrude out from the ship, I now do not have the ability, if I want to go asymmetric, then I could actually put a row of containers or something here, but what practical to use, and then I now would have to have a port and starboard version, which I didn't really want to do. So in this case, because the refineries are 2 by 2 6x4, just like the original refineries, in fact, then why not go ahead and put these in, because hey, they fit, and then I can still follow the symmetry. So that worked out. So it just became a production capable module, because these guys have power of their own through the batteries, which we'll zoom up here and show you the batteries. Oh, don't have batteries there. So going to be a little harder to see, but let's demonstrate with these guys here. You can see the batteries. This is the large and the small, which have batteries. So they do have the ability to charge, have their own power. In the case of all of them, they actually have built-in thrusters. Obviously, you use an ion thruster for very long and you will lose power in your batteries pretty quickly, but these also, the small only has the one cockpit, but you can these are mobile. So the idea is that you park your vessel wherever you park your vessel, and then you can actually maneuver the storage pods onto and attach them to the ship. So the idea was you had the complete flexibility to do anything you needed to do without having to drive your ship over to it, because docking can be challenging. So in this case, because of where these guys are, you can actually see everything that's happening, and then all the controls for interlocking the connectors are in fact in these cockpits. So these cockpits, the pods themselves, completely independently maneuverable, including gyros. So you've got infinite flexibility there. All right, so that is basically the Kentiized version of the high-profile transport as it is. So I just wanted to give a tour of those and the modules that I came up with. These are not yet, but will be in not very long up on my workshop. So thank you all for watching. This is Kenty Tiger signing off, and we'll catch you next time.